Have you ever faced prejudice as an atheist? And I'm asking you specifically, and I guess Jose jump in there too, because the four of us have been on here before. But say within your community, because you're both, with that active within the Latino agnostic atheist kind of community, have you guys faced specific prejudice as a result being a Latino and an atheist?
I don't remember any situation here in the United States, but when I was coming out as a non-believer, I was still living in El Salvador as a teenager. And they forbid some of my friends to talk to me
Really?
because I could, infect them with my, doubts. So that felt really hurtful because a lot of them stopped talking to me. Later in life, they talk to me again, I guess, as adults, and things, mended. But at the time, I think, especially for a lot of people, Latinos coming out of, walking out of religion, it's a hurtful experience because you get a lot of rejection. You don't get invited to parties. You don't, I don't know. They make you feel like there's something wrong with you. And similarly, I would compare it to like coming out for someone maybe who is gay, that at the beginning is very hard for the family to accept it. Later in time, things get easier and they kind of process it. At the point where, people who rejected me at the beginning now treat me, normally. Like,
Okay.
it was more of a process for them to accept me than for me.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think people sometimes work things out, and even though that felt like a negative experience, I think it was needed. If I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be able, to be myself in front of them. So I'm glad that it happened.
I don't know. The big Nick says being an atheist doesn't make you interesting. Okay.
We tried.
Okay, man.
Okay, sure. I agree.
Wonder about that question that you just asked, Yamaleth, Michael, because I'm wondering, are you asking her about her being discriminated against as an atheist, or being discriminated against as a Latina in the atheist community? Because the majority of atheists
I see where you're going.
Are white.
No, that's actually a really good question, though. I didn't mean it that way, but we can ask that because, yes, I meant it as Cynthia. When Cynthia and I first met, I went to one of her meetings and I found out so much about how the Black community would treat an atheist, which is much harsher, if you will, than say you and I and Ed and Larry within the white community. Because it's like, yeah, you can be an atheist, but it's not. I mean, it's a big deal, but it's not. We're not getting rid of our, like someone said in one of Cynthia's group, we're not betraying our Blackness. We're not betraying our whiteness. We're not trying to be white, as I think Titus has said. People have said you're trying to be white. Because when you're a Black person trying to get away from it. And I wonder if it's the same thing in a Latino community, because again, it's another very strong, very Catholic community as a general rule, right? I wasn't sure if that there was a sense of betrayal, if you will, for Jose and Yamaleth, that they've said they kind of turned their back on their community, which is different than, say, the other three of us. We don't really quite have that. But your point is a good point. I mean, I'll re-ask that for you, Yamaleth and Jose, both. Have you had that? Have you had any problem from the white people? It puts us all on the spot. Do you have any kind of, do you feel, do you notice anything one way or the other in terms of being a Latino in an atheist community? You're certainly in the minority, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and the reason that I founded I started the class group was specifically because I had been to a couple meetups. And it's not that you feel excluded per se, because I mean, the issues are all the same. It's just that you look around and you're just like, oh, there's got to be more than just myself as a Hispanic Latino individual. Let me see who else is out there. And so for me, it was just a way to reach out and just to see who else was out there. And then when I started, actually, the very first person that came to a meetup group was a white guy. And I always thank him because he kept it going for like 6 months. We met up for coffee, and he was really nice and everything like that. And he just told me that, yeah, just stay with it, man. Like, hey, I'll keep coming to coffee. And he came, after people started showing up. Hispanic people started showing up. Then, he still stayed with the group and stuff like that. And I think it's not exclusive to. It isn't. It's not that I think. It's not exclusive to just Latino people. It's people who are kind of interested in the Latino Hispanic culture, things like that, and then they can come and they can meet other people of that culture, and interact and ask questions and just have a good time. So that's the reason that I did it. I'm not really for any feeling any discrimination or anything like that, or just not feeling accepted. As far as myself personally feeling or experiencing any discrimination or anything like that for being a Latino atheist, I haven't really, and I think that's just because I was born in Mexico, but I was raised here in Chicago.
Okay.
So Chicago's, like you said, it's a liberal city. You're more likely to meet people, even if they do go to church. You're not gonna hit you over the head with a Bible.
Right. Yeah.
They're trying to make it through Mass, and so they can get out and do whatever it is that we do after Mass. And that was always my experience. I went to a Catholic grammar school, and that was always my experience. Everybody else that I went to Mass with, we all just kind of sat in the back, and we were just waiting for the time when we can get out and actually do the things that we really wanted to do.
Right. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I'm going to throw up a quick couple here from Big Nick, and then Big Nick, we're going to cut you off, man, because Big Nick is joined. I'm trying so hard to enunciate that name so I don't misstate it here. Big Nick is he's not so pleased with us. He finds it that it's boring. Now he's put, you guys aren't seeing this, but he's put about 7 comments about how this is boring and not worth watching.
Then why are you still here?
Well, that was kind of my
Obviously we are interesting because you have the tendency to be here and actually interact. Stop.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you're still listening and you're participating, which helps the algorithm. So Big Nick, thank you so much, because that does actually promote the channel. So we do appreciate that. Why are these people noteworthy? The other thing, what is it? We're waiting for something interesting to be said. Okay, Big Nick, you're on a podcast at a YouTube channel for atheists. We're discussing atheism. A lot of people watching you guys are atheists. It's going to be interesting to those people. I imagine if you go on one about metric wrenches, mechanics will find that fascinating. I will have zero interest in that. Or you go on about growing orchids. The orchid people will love it. I have no interest. So you're here asking. I don't even know where you're coming from, Big Nick. But all right,
can we go back to the question? Because I think that I want to chime in because I think that depending on the community, it will be answered a little bit differently. Can you put it up just one more time?
I'm trying to find it real quick. Yes. Yes. Here we go.
Okay. Have you ever faced prejudice as an atheist? Okay. So, I think that, okay, so if we're looking on the outward portion, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that we have already seen where atheists would face prejudice because we don't necessarily believe in a God or gods, right?
Mm-hmm.
And on the macro level, we are seeing how that whole office that has been set up in the federal government concerning Christian persecution and the whole thing about possibly looking at and targeting atheist groups to see if they're causing harm to Christians and things of that nature.
Yeah.
We're even seeing where the president is talking about basically invading Nigeria for Christian persecution.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah.
Which in Nigeria in of itself is super religious.
Mm-hmm.
Super, and as far as what I have, found out concerning this whole thing about supposed Christian persecution is that Boko Haram is causing terrorism, which they are related to ISIS and Al Qaeda, and they are and they are not only persecuting Christians, but they're persecuting Muslims as well. You know, it's mostly like they're just trying to gain control over the area that they happen to be in. So that's more like a political coup, not necessarily, you know, because you happen to believe this way versus the other. So I think that, you know, we have like a societal thing concerning, you know, the whole thing about like, you know, atheism, and then like on the individualistic level, you know, depending on the, you know, going back to like, you know, the cultural group, the most religious group that happens to be in the United States are African American. And we have a tendency to link our identification along with our, you know, cultural and racial identification as well. And when you have a person that looks like me, or even in the chat like Arthur Ward, the first Black atheist I ever met in my life, thank you for coming in, Arthur. You know, say, oh my goodness, you're Black and you're atheist? How could you? You know, like, you know, again, the clutching of the pearls, like how, you know, it has been looked at in our community as a betrayal to being Black, you know, and I know that we have a very unique, ideology when it comes to our relationship with the church and Christianity in of itself, especially when you look at Christianity being utilized in the colonies and then in the states in order for them to control their slave population. Insert slave Bible here. And then using like, you know, African Americans to be to use their churches that they happen to start as meeting places for them to organize. And so since they actually utilized the whole meeting place of organizing, they looked at activism, civil unrest, and social justice as a Christian thing within the Black community, not necessarily a social justice thing and an economic justice thing. So if you have those of us who happen to divorce ourselves from belief because it's not empirically responsible, then we have like the scarlet letter of A tattooed on our chest, because we don't necessarily, like, you know, fall into this, you know, into this category. And I even remember, Michael, I don't know, you were there for the debate, right? Were you?
I wasn't. No, unfortunately, I missed it.
Okay, you weren't there for the debate. Well, when we put on a debate between one of our members and a pastor who, you know, he took the question was, has Jesus or the church Christianity have been good for Black people? One of our members took the negative, and then the pastor, of course, took the affirmative. And I remember afterwards, my mom was there, and my mother was kind of like, you know, pounced upon by the pastor's wife and say, like, how can you like stand like your daughter, you know, being basically an atheist, and, you know, you all have a relation, you know, and you know, my mom basically said to her, like, you know, well, when I listen to like a lot of these different things, and I even look back over my own life, maybe I've been indoctrinated too. You know, a whole person that goes to church just practically every Sunday. And for you,
that was your mom?
Yeah, my mom said that to the pastor's wife. You know, I was like, oh, how progressive of you, mother. Now, if you could just make that leap a little bit further, you know, regardless, that way I don't have to get up and take you to church. So close, I don't have to take you to church on Sunday mornings at 9 o'clock in the morning. I want to sleep, but that's neither here nor there. But, you know, I mean, but at the same time, like, I get where the pastor's wife is coming from, because that's the narrative that has been espoused in our community. And, you know, even the pastor, you know, after we were even bringing up different points of, this doesn't make any sense, but what about this? And how come God has not been strong enough in order to keep the United States government from oppressing us as, you know, as individuals and in a collective in the in this particular nation? And I need you to read the scriptures more. I need you to pray more. I need you to do X, Y, and Z more in order for us to be able to understand and possibly have God to, minister to us to why we are no longer within this particular belief system. Because obviously we are wrong because of reasons.
Yeah, reasons. Have I met Arthur? Is Arthur local?
Yeah, he's in Chicago. No, you haven't met him yet.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if I met him at one of your meetings. Hey, thanks for tuning in to today's show. I really hope you enjoyed it. Do me a favor and like and subscribe to the show and tell a friend. That helps us grow and it lets us keep bringing you more voices from the other side of belief. Until we talk again, be kind to one another and remember that reason and compassion go a long way.